Hello and welcome to Grace Westminster Friday livestream. Thanks for joining us today. It's another solo effort by truly yours, Konstantin, and today we're going to ask you some questions. I want to hear what you think about certain photographic things. So thanks for everyone to join us. If it's your first time here, Grace Westminster livestream is normally we talk about anything Nikon related. So last week we had a homage to film camera Nikon F, which is iconic in a lot of places. We talked industry with different guests, and my regular guest or host, her name is Becky. She's away at the moment, so she is hopefully going to be back by the end of the month. So hopefully, if you had enough of me, just stay strong. Give it another 2 weeks, and hopefully, we will have her back. So lovely chat here. We have Minneapolis here, North Somerset Lake District. Wow. Hello, guys. San Francisco, Essex. I like how we jump between England and the United States, Bedfordshire. I saw Germany there as well. Guys, if you have any questions for me, just put QQQ at the front, the usual stuff, so I can, filter them out, and then hopefully you'll see them. I will try to read your opinions as well, because I'm going to ask you questions. So the idea is really to have a chat, have it a little bit informal. I didn't want to do any lecture or anything like this, because it's kind of everyone gets bored. Maybe some people are not interested in it. So I would like to have a conversation, have it lively with you. And because in the last couple of weeks we had guests, it was very difficult to track actually a conversation on the chat. So we'll try to do it now and interact with you while we can. So who else do we have here? We have Malta. Okay, we have Spain. That's really nice. Roy's here already asking questions. That's really nice. Michael Brown as well. Couple of things before we start. So Coffee Fund is open. So if you support the channel, you can send us some coffee. So we do appreciate this. And I also want to thank people who send us some coffee funds via PayPal and other means. Mr. Super thanks. So let's say chat. We got Clive here. We got Ian Woolard as well. We got Craig Rothler and our note. Thank you very much, guys. We really, really appreciate it. We got some on the chat as well, so people pin some comments as well, so that's going to be quite good. I hope everyone is here, so let's see how many people are here. So we got about 77 people watching. Well, it's not much for today, but that's fine. I mean, we got August, we got holidays, etc., etc. Let's warm up a little bit while people are joining us. So some people are late, like me. I'm usually late, etc., etc. So, but let me ask you a question. I want to hear your opinion, and while I'm doing this, I also gonna ask you as well. I'm gonna read some comments as well. If you notice, there's no audio delay, so we still have a problem with our 8 Mini Pro. The way we had it set it up, we had our mixing deck, which is a port track, connected to 8 Mini via mic jacks, and then we had video coming from Z8, and we always had a delay. Unfortunately, we tried to troubleshoot it as much as we can. It seems like there's no delay at the source, so when we put the delay to 6 frames or 5 frames, but as soon as we connect to YouTube, there's always a delay. So it seems like the software that ATEM has on the computer does not send those settings. So we're still gonna try to troubleshoot it, but in the meantime, I just hooked up the mixing deck to Z6. Now video feed and audio feed are coming from Z6 into the 8 Mini, and then we're streaming. So there's no delay. Maybe audio is not that great, but if you can hear me okay, I guess that's better than nothing. And people saying that I'm doing okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Adrian. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ian, as well. Let me ask you the first question. Let's start with the Nikon thing and something that is popular. So what do you think Z8 will be? So obviously we're talking about Z8, it's on the rumors, nothing concrete as of yet. We don't know if it's going to be out this year or not. But I did a kind of a little poll on my Instagram account asking what Z8 will be in your opinion. Will it be a D850 replacement, so high resolution body, no grip, the same AF system from Z9, or will it be mini Z9, which also a lot of people think that is, and it's basically the same camera Z9 with shade of grip, yada, yada, yada. So, and the third question is, the third opinion was it will be dedicated video camera. So what, guys, do you think? Which camera will it be and why? I don't want just you to say, oh, that's going to be this and this. Just try to justify it for me, because I think it's going to be D850 replacement. I personally think we need a higher resolution body. I personally think that mini Z9 will eat sales of the big Z9, and I don't think that Nikon will release a dedicated video camera, which I think they should be, but I don't think it will be Z8. I think it will require its own system. So, Patrick, I hear you, but she's with me Becky is with me in spirit. So let's have a look. So Roy is saying, for the same exposure settings, why do cameras underexpose when switching to silent shots in about 15? Roy, we're not going to talk about the things today. So I need your opinion. What do you think about this? You tell me. So, okay, Michael Brown says, Con, if and when Z8, Z9, Mark II and Z7 Mark II is unveiled, how disappointed and happy will people be? Everyone is going to be always disappointed. That's what the internet tells us. If you look at the internet, we're going to talk about social media later on today because I want to ask you as well about YouTube and Instagram of things as well. But it seems like everyone tends to be unhappy for any reasons. Just look into the comments under our videos as well. We can say one statement, one sentence, and we can have 10 different replies. 2 of them are going to be related to that statement, and 8 are going to be completely different things. That's the weird thing about the internet. So it seems like the comment section of the YouTube becomes more of a kind of an opinion corner more than anything else. So, but we're gonna hear your opinions today, not some random people on the internet. So, who else do we have? So, let's have a look. So we got Australia here. So Sam set up a poll here. So high res, bigger body, D850. 70% is the winner. Well, it's 69 now. So yeah, I think that's what it's going to be because, as we said, Z7 is a fantastic camera. No doubt about this. But for a lot of people, they forget that actually the size of the camera needs to be different as well. So a lot of people forget that the pro needs, the professional photographer's needs, are going to be slightly different from everyone else's needs. And they do tend to prefer a bigger body. We don't need to be D850 size. We can potentially have a D750 size or something like this, but obviously in the mirrorless form, it's still going to be bigger than Z6 and Z7 cameras. And obviously a lot of people try to ask, well, what they're going to do then with Z6, what they're going to do with Z7, where Z5 is going to go. And to be honest with you, it's everyone's kind of, opinion at this stage, because really no one knows. And until we start to actually see what's going to happen with Z8, we're not going to know. But I personally think that, yeah, Z8, bigger body, Z9 F system, yada, yada, yada. We don't need the same frame rate, etc., etc. Z7 can be a gimped version of Z8. So, we can stay at the same 45 megapixel sensor. So Z7 Mark II sensor is better in terms of dynamic range than Z9. Slightly, we're talking, splitting hairs here, but it is a little bit better. So it could be a landscape camera for a lot of people. And for landscape camera, you don't need super fast autofocus. You don't need all those bells and whistles and bigger size of the body. I mean, obviously some people use large format cameras and those are huge. Think about 8x10. But the beauty of Z7 is a high resolution in a very portable form. So for people, who like to travel, this is a fantastic option. It gives you really, really high output. So let me just quickly go through the chat while I'm talking about it. I also want to ask you, when do you think Z8 will appear? Will it appear this year, or do you think it's going to slip to the next year? So we had people, let's say, like Seth, thinking that, Seth Miranda, he said, I don't think that Z8 will be released this year. Obviously, there are no concrete rules at the moment. It's speculation. So I want to hear you as well. Do you think it's going to slip to the next year, or do you think it's going to be this year? Let me just quickly go through the comments. Let's see. Okay, Terry Contopoulos says, Mini to be a second camera to pros, and it will take power grip too. Yeah, so that's the thing. So Terry thinks it's going to be Mini Z9. The main argument about Mini Z9 is it will eat up the sales of the big Z9. Nikon had this release, and they had D3 and D700. I don't know if you guys been around that time. I've been around since about D200. So I don't go further, further than that. But from D200, kind of I worked at Gray, so we kind of looked at the interest in sales, etc. D700, D3 were released about the same time, yeah, so within the same year. As soon as D700 was released, D3 sales completely slowed down. So we're not talking just about the body size, etc., but also the sensor. The sensor was very good in low light, 1 megapixel sensor. We clearly saw a difference in terms of sales as soon as D700 was released. Okay, need a D500 replacement, Z90, Z80. Yeah, again, Michael, I don't think that's going to happen this year. For some reason, unless they will surprise us, I don't think it's happening this year. So Captain Lewis says, I'd love Z8 to be a 30 megapixel ultra autofocus performance. You see, a lot of people who say it needs to be a low resolution don't think that 8 will be a D850. And I think For me, this is a clear parallel there. For a lot of people, it's not. But I think when they say Z8 with 30 megapixel sensor, they mean Z6 Mark III. Because Z6 Mark III is effectively needs to jump the 24 megapixel sensor. You know, a lot of people don't agree with me, but I still think that 24 megapixels at this age needs to be upgraded. We don't need to have another 24 megapixel camera, unless it's maybe Z5 Mark II. But I think Z6, 33 megapixels, fast AF. Again, I'm really struggling to see, will Nikon have the same AF performance on all Z8, Z7, and Z6 Mark III cameras, the same AF speed, the same processor? If they achieve it, that's going to be amazing. I really hope for this. But kind of at the back of me, I still think that Nikon will gimp it somehow. I don't know why, but I just have this feeling. They will restrict it to certain areas. Maybe not artificially, maybe it will just be processor will be a little bit slower, etc., etc. But hopefully they can implement Z9 performance among all cameras. Let's see what other people say. We've got Nigel Sutton got Z9 2 weeks ago. That's fantastic. That's amazing. Patrick is asking, how are delivery volumes for Z9, Z100? Well, Patrick, we update. We do updates on our Nikon Report podcast. So we had a small shipments of Z9 today. So again, those cameras are all allocated, so it's never free stock. We surprisingly got two other things today. SB700, that's been out of stock for a month. And another one is NB M11. So the grip for the Z7 and Z6 Mark II cameras as well arrived today out of the blue. So those things are starting to pop up. I'm really, really pleased. There was a small shipment of Z100 to 400 as well. None of those are free stock. So guys, don't call us. You know, whoever is on the list, whoever's in line to get those, we are contacting them as we speak. So, but the good news is what we started to notice. Not in terms of frequency of shipments, we are getting shipments 1 to 2 shipments a month. So now more over 2 shipments a month. But what we start to see is actually larger quantities in one shipment. So the hope is that with more quantity starting to come through, we start to fill those back orders as fast as we possibly can. So Patrick, can't give you, unfortunately, direct answers, but hopefully that answered your questions. Some are saying, thank you for 50 likes. We can do better, guys. So if you do like, if you support this channel, we do appreciate some likes. It really helps us because it actually shows the stream to other people who are just randomly browsing YouTube. And obviously we want to grow as a channel. We want to have a bigger community. People who are watching us right now are not in the chat. Come on, join us. Join us in the chat. We don't bite. You know, it's a nice crowd over there, so don't worry. What we don't like in our live streams and our chats is bashing other brands. We don't do this here. We don't do this here. I don't like this anti-culture. So this is the best brand. The rest is wrong. You know, no, it's your personal opinion. It's your personal choice of what you like or what not. We obviously love Nikon. So, you know, we love to use Nikon. It doesn't mean we don't use other brands as well. So, okay. Hi, Chuck from AP Studio. He is asking, Con, will it matter to anyone if Z8 is the small Z9 and the Z7 III is mega res camera? It will matter to me. I'm not an expert. We all self-proclaimed experts here. You know, that's why I don't think that, you know, like I voice my opinion based on my research, my experience of working on grays, my experience as a professional photographer, doing jobs, and obviously we do talk to people, to our customers as well, and we do listen to what they say to us. So in terms of this, it is a desire of having a bigger body. It's not just like coming from me. It's coming from a lot of users. So a lot of people say they're happy with their Z6 and Z7 sizes. Some people prefer bigger bodies, and for me as well, I would prefer a bigger body. I need to have a better grip on the camera. So, you know, I don't see the problem of using bigger cameras for professional needs. Again, we need to separate ourselves from professional photographers who work with photography and keen enthusiasts. I know that the line is very blurred between professional photographers, but what I'm trying to say is those guys generally don't care about the specs of the camera when they're coming out. They don't eagerly wait and, you know, chat on the forums. Of course, some people do, some people don't. But they use those things as tools. And in terms of this, they're different requirements to those things. Like, let's say we now shoot a lot with Z6 for YouTube side of things. I don't really use the still camera. For video work, it's fantastic. It pairs up with my gimbal. I take it in and out. It gives me a sharper image quality in 4K. It's a gimbal camera with screen front. It does the job what I need. I don't need anything else. Now, for people who use camera for different things, so maybe they're keen enthusiasts and they take cameras, you know, like let's say one day they take it for a trip, another day they're going to do a live stream, another day they're going to have a landscape or portrait session. They will look for different things, but for professional needs are going to be different. And in terms of this, in my opinion, we need a bigger body. We definitely need a bigger body. That's the thing. You know, people may agree on or disagree with me, but hopefully we'll get some. For me personally, if we have Z7 and Z8, which do literally the same thing but different body shapes, I'll still buy Z8 personally. You know, that's the thing. But again, when I buy Z8, I don't think I'll take it with me on holiday. Maybe I will, but you know, J50 wasn't my holiday or my walkabout camera. So that's the thing. It was literally for professional work, and it would sit in the back till it needs to come out and, you know, do professional work. That's the thing. But obviously, keen enthusiasts would buy it as their main camera and they would use it for this specific reason. So, okay, so let's see, what else do we have? I don't want to slip too far back in the chat, but let's see. So Ian Images says Z8 will come out next year to let Z9 settle in. Absolutely, I agree with you. Again, we're talking about, you know, things being out of stock. So I assume that, yeah, Z8 won't help the situation. So hopefully they will manage to kind of make the supply of Z9 steady and then they'll release another camera. But that's the problem. That's what may affect the release of the Z8 this year. So if they do it for this reason and the specs are finalized, from point of Nikon of not pressuring their, let's say, supply chains or let's say their production lines, it makes sense. From point of us users who want this camera right now, we're going to be upset. We're going to be upset. And that's, it's one of the things that you say, are people going to be happy? Well, no, there's not like everyone is 100% happy on anything. So, okay, some jumped the gun about using two different camera systems, but we'll get to this, so keep that in mind. So we got the yes at 43% and no at 57%. We will come back to this at some point, but let's just finish up Z8. So Steve says, hi Steve, is our Steve. He's downstairs right now, you know, obviously working and watching our stream. Thanks for joining us, Steve. So Tom Hogan says today that I'm not expecting Z8 anytime soon. Here you have it, folks. So let's see. Z high, so Bandali says Z9 high frame rate, Z8 decent frame rate, high megapixels. Agree. Z7 high megapixel, low frame rate. Z6 low megapixels, low frame rate. The rest football lens. I also say Z6 is low megapixels, but incredible low light performance. I think the reason why Z6 is so popular is because of its low light performance. It's actually outperforms Z9. So in terms of this, a lot of those guys will buy Z6 for this reason. And of course, I understand we need this camera where we need a very good low light performance, a very fast source focus speed. So paparazzi guys, think about them, you know. So we need those cameras. Now, again, people like paparazzi, they would go for something like big, you know, like D5, D6, Z9, because they need a robust camera. They, you know, they will use it as a weapon if need to be. So, you know, Z6 may not be the camera for them. But I think, yeah, very fast performance, low light capabilities, small form factor, that would be fantastic for a lot of people. Again, I would ideally want something like 30 plus megapixels. So we're talking, I think there's a 33 megapixel sensor out at the moment. So, so Christopher says it's a good bet that a cut down version of 400 pounds of Z9 next spring will be in very short supply, of course. Oh, you mean for, I guess he meant 4,000 pounds. Yeah, I personally think that Z8 will be in a price range of 4,000 pounds. I have a question for you about Z8 and 400,000 pounds price. So we have GFX 100S, 100 megapixels. So camera for me, really, the, you know, studio photography, portraiture, autofocus is slow, doesn't matter for me. The resolution in a bigger sense. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping with Z8. So if Z8 comes out at 4,000 pounds and you got GFX 100S at 5.5 grand, let's just forget about buying lenses and the whole point of switching from system to system. But if we start to think about, let's say Z8 is 60 to 80 megapixel sensor at 4,000 pounds and GFX 100S at 5.5, and then bigger sensor, 100 megapixel. Which one would you prefer? Which one would you prefer? Would you buy GFX? Would you buy Z8? So forget about cost of lenses right now. So we obviously, it's all hypothetical. We're just talking those. Let's not throw in more complications there. Magnus asking if anyone tested Maya-Gerritz on Nikon. That's a good question. We asked that in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't get the answer, but people actually told us the story. Apparently, they've been bought several times, but the optics are quite good and very traditional kind of rendering. Natasha Murphy says, would like a Z9, but need a smaller body, small hands. Here we go. But Natasha, would you like, let's say, Z8 and a bigger body? So let's say, like, if we think Z8 and you shaved off Z9 grip, so that's kind of size. So it's still bigger than Z7, but smaller than Z9. Would you prefer this, or would you prefer Z7 Mark III to be effectively a D50 replacement? So high res, fast AF speed, etc., etc. Okay, Jeffrey says, you have a lot of amateur photographers who really want a Z8 but bought a Z9 because they couldn't wait. I agree, and that's the thing. And the good thing about amateur photographers nowadays, that's they can afford those things. And the beauty of that is nice. It's nice. And when you enthusiast, you buy equipment not to make money per se. So you save up. You save up and you effectively, it's not really an investment, but you spend on your hobby. Let's think about hi-fi. I mean, it's again, slippery slope hi-fi. You know, you start with some set of speakers and then amp and preamp, and you go down the chain, you know, and then you say, oh, I want to buy something more improved now, and you start to buy maybe a new turntable, a new amplifier, a new set of speakers, etc., etc. So, but you don't look at it from a point of investment to make money. For professional photographers, they are a lot easier, a lot more pragmatic in this respect. They look at the expense. So they buy a camera, let's say, for 3 to 5 years, depending on their use. Especially wedding guys, you go through a lot of shots. So your mileage on your camera is quite high. You look at it as expensive. So if actually you look at the camera as a write-off. So in terms of this, when they buy those cameras, they buy it, okay, it's time for me to upgrade. I'm going to see how much money I can spend. Let's say maybe to switch to DSLR to mirrorless. That's it. Done. It's good for me for another 3 years. So as example, we had a guy coming in, D70 guy, who was a D90. I think it was D90 actually, or D80, one of those. And yeah, he bought let's say D80, and he shot bar mitzvahs with it for about 5 years. He brought the camera, he bought another second-hand D80, and his mileage on his first cameras was like ridiculous, under 200,000, etc., etc. So, you know, at that point, we already had cameras like D800 and G600, G750s, etc., etc. But, you know, D80 did the job for him, you know. Okay, so let's have a look. Oh, we got 145 viewers. Thanks for joining us today. If it's your first time, we talk Nikon and we talk all photography here today. So let's see what John says. John says, I have both GFX S, so 100S, I assume, and Z9. And Z9 cannot even come close to GFX S. So, John, elaborate on this. So obviously, it's not autofocus speed, clearly. You know, it's not autofocus speed. So I assume it's an image quality. So high cost of equipment as well. You know, if you look at zoom lenses on GFX system offerings, they're not great. They're not particularly great, and they're huge. So what we're saying is courses for horses, or horses for courses, etc., etc. So it doesn't come even close, doesn't mean in general. It means in one aspect. So please tell me what you think. So John Hughes, GFX is a great camera. I use GFX myself, and I do find them for studio work. They're fantastic. So I need Z8. That's the thing. Because GFX is around, I need the Z8 personally. So it's just as simple as that. So Patrick always says that without video, that's not going to happen, Patrick, I'm afraid. So I'm sorry, that's just part of the package. You're not paying anything extra. You're not paying anything extra. I think it's actually, you will pay extra to not have video on your camera right now, because we're talking about smaller production, and the smaller quantities means higher expense. Samantha says, cameras needs to be different, as genre styles are different, and sales won't happen, and every manufacturer would only make one camera doesn't fit it all. Exactly, that's exactly my point. I don't need Z9, I'm not supposed to be a photographer. Look guys, we love you, we appreciate you. I think for last 6 months, you've got all the love. You've got all the love. You know, as a portrait photographer, I feel a little bit left behind, you know, as a Nikon guy. So look, it's nice. I'm glad that YouTube is now dominating with all wildlife things. It's fantastic. I mean, the quality that those cameras create right now and the videos those guys create, especially production values, are amazing. But yeah, I don't need autofocus speed that much. You know, I don't mind to like. For me, Z7 II and Z6 II, autofocus performance is fantastic. You know, of course, if it would be faster, even better. But I would look more into resolution side of things more than anything else myself. You know, but that's the thing. People are different. They need it for different needs. You look at fine art photographers, they'll take all the resolution they can. You know, look at paparazzi guys, look at sports guys. They actually need low light performance. If your images are used on the web, or if your images go straight to Getty, you don't need large file sizes. If your images go straight to the newspaper as well. So, you know, there are different approaches and different needs for different photographers. Okay, Nigel said, I would like size of Z50, but I would like to buy Z50 Mark II, even Z500. I feel you. I feel you. John says, yeah, for GFX 16-bit, yeah, I think that's what we need. That's what, for me, Z8 ideally needs to have 16-bit. That's for studio guys, fashion guys, advertisements, photography, etc. So this is going to be perfect if you get 16-bit. A true 16-bit file, that would be amazing. At the moment, yeah, we have Hassies and GFX is obviously phase 1. So I don't care if the file is going to be 1 gigabyte. I personally don't care. I'll take it. That's like, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. And that's, I think, what's important. We don't need the camera. And Samantha, absolutely, thanks for pointing out. We don't need the cameras that just do everything. Absolutely not. Okay, so David says, I still haven't heard good reason why Nikon doesn't tap into the rangefinder market. The high-end full frame complete with Leica Q system. I don't see any good reason why Nikon should tap into rangefinder market. Here's the answer, David, because technically, I agree with you. I would love Nikon to release a rangefinder camera, but at the same time, it's probably a very niche market. Very niche market. I'm personally really kind of eyeing an idea of acquiring Nikon S3 rangefinder myself. And I would like to try Leica at some point, from my experience. I have my Mi M7, again, rangefinder system. I love it. It's incredible. If Nikon releases that, that's going to be amazing. Does it make sense from financial point of view? Again, no. That's the thing. Nikon is not Canon. We're not talking about the size. But interesting thought, David. Definitely. Interesting thought. I think if it's priced at 5K, people will buy it. It's not going to be a big seller, but I think a lot of us who are, let's say, keen Nikon enthusiasts and, let's say, don't mind to spend a little bit extra for something very special. So I think, yeah, I agree. There is a market for that, but it's not, that's the thing. We go into Leica territory. And in terms of this, I don't think it's bad, but at the same time, I think we need to tap into masses first. So we need to maybe get into video side of things first. And after that, because videographer market is huge. And again, I'm sorry guys, but the video is a part of the, kind of a landscape nowadays. I mean, we're going to talk about Instagram in a second and all the real situation, but everyone's required to be videographers nowadays if you want to stay in the game. And by saying they stay in the game, I mean, again, pro photographers who need to market, who need to be there. So let's have a look. Steve says, my Z7 is too small. Ooh, and my chat jumped. Okay, yeah, my Z7 is too small to handle without a small read bracket attached. Makes sense. I also use small rig bracket, L bracket on my Z6 camera as well. So in terms of this, definitely I feel you. Again, when I take Z6 on a walk with me for just leisure, I would take the L grip off and it makes it nice and compact. Let's have a look. Yeah, if you haven't put us a like, please do so. If you haven't subscribed yet, do definitely subscribe. We do work hard to produce 3 videos a week, and it is a hard job, so we really appreciate your support. Okay, shall we wrap up with Z8 for the moment? So I think it's a good opinion because we haven't seen any rumors yet. That's the thing. And from the chat, I can see that a lot of people agree that it seems like Z8 would come out next year. So that's at least consensus that, kind of the sense I'm getting on the chat. And a lot of people from the comments, maybe I misrepresent the opinion, but it looks like a lot of people want a high-res body on this one, so and slightly bigger. So looking at the poll as well, we seems to get in there. But again, it's everyone's bet at this moment. We all can be wrong on this one, but it is what it is. So let's go to social media side of things. So let's talk about the Instagram and YouTube side of things. Obviously, as a photographer, you want to put your images out. Yeah, so it seems like Instagram is kind of a place to be. Well, it was. Well, it wasn't, because they never said we are photographers, but now it's got even worse. They said we are new TikTok nowadays. You know, obviously, we're not going to talk about Facebook acquisition of Instagram. That's back in the day. But with the current tradition of Reels, shoving the Reels in your face and in reducing the amount of engagement, where do we go? Have you left your Instagram account? Have you noticed anything different with the introduction of Reels? Do you want to do Reels as a photographer? Where else would you go? Where else would you go? I mean, I'll give you a couple of options here. So first of all, we've got Flickr. You know, good old-fashioned Flickr. I mean, it's been for donkey's years. It's been acquired by Yahoo. I think it's now bought by someone else. So got that. We also got Tumblr. Again, people who were around 10 years ago, they know what that is. You know, we got 500 pixels. So those websites, I think that was a kind of rival to Flickr back in the day. And then it was bought by some Chinese company. And then it kind of became, there were some concerns about privacy, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got places like Visco for cool kids. We've got places like PixelFed, StoryArc, Portrait Mode, Vero. We've got a dedicated place for film photography like Granary. That one is just started. There's no app on the phone, which I think they should get out as soon as possible. But this is the place where you, if you're an analog photographer, if you just shoot film, you can put your images there, and then you can separate them by equipment and by film, etc., etc. My question for you is this. I mean, again, we can talk about professional photographers who need to market. So Facebook and Instagram became a place for marketing. It's not a place for photography. But if you're a working photographer, if you getting your work through IG, through Instagram, or you getting either your clients or, you know, or brands, etc. So your engagement comes through that. You need to market there. And suddenly you need to start shoot Reels. You know, you need to become a TikTok. People who use TikTok, tell me, how's it going for you? Do you love it? What do you think about TikTok, etc., etc.? Instagram is where the places where the masses at as well. They're non-photographers. So which means you have more chance of your photography, especially imagine you're a wedding photographer, you're a portrait photographer. You want to get your clients for this. So it's the place where non-photographers can see your images and discuss. You know, if you go back to Flickr, if you go to places like, let's say, you know, Flickr or Granary or something, you limiting yourself to a very small niche. You actually showing your work to photographers. And the question is, do you want to show your work just to photographers? Or do you want everyone else to see the image? I mean, we're not talking, you know, like, I look at it from a marketing point of view. Obviously, you know, we all like the likes and, you know, this whole of ego and narcissism coming through this and validation of many likes, et cetera, the gamification of all those platforms, et cetera, et cetera. But the question is, if you're a professional photographer and you need to market, you have to be on Instagram. Doesn't matter if it's became a new TikTok or not. You know, so what are your thoughts? Let me know. So yeah, I can see comments here already. So we got Smug Mark as an option as well. Nick Harrison says, far too many ads on Instagram and too many videos. I absolutely agree with you. One thing I can tell you about the Instagram that hopefully will help you to improve your experience is if you open your app and you click on the actual Instagram logo on the top left corner, there's option of favorites and following. So if you click on following, that effectively will get you just the feed from the people you follow. So not the other random stuff like, you know, promotions, etc., etc. So in terms of this, that hopefully will help you experience. But I agree that too many ads, again, it's owned by Facebook. So, or Meta, yeah. So effectively you're dealing with a company that needs to produce income, so or profit for their shareholders. So it's not about you as a photographer. It's never been about you as a photographer, unfortunately. And that's what we need to understand. I mean, I don't want everyone to be cynical or anything, but it's not about us, unfortunately, on this one. And it's sad. I really wish we'd have a social media where we actually, that we wouldn't worry about monetization and things like this. Ian recommends Flickr. Let's see. Instagram is dead still for photographers. Yes, I agree. Let's have a look. Samantha says, I'm still on Facebook, keep getting pushed to Insta, but can't register, just put it all in one place. So, Samantha, how, like, in terms of engagement, how do you find? Do you get a lot of engagement? Do you actually get some work through Facebook? I mean, obviously, Instagram and Facebook became both marketing skills. So in terms of this, yes, it's you can, depending on your photography business, you can definitely get clients from there. Adobe Behance, yes. Craig says this. Yes, thank you, Craig, for this. I have it on my list. Haven't used it myself. My only concern about this is Behance belongs to Adobe. And Adobe is a big corporation. Instagram belongs to Facebook. Can you see the parallels? So it can be like it potentially great now. 3 years down the road, what's going to happen? So this is my concern. I can be wrong on this one. So Yam says, I'm not a fan of changing Instagram. Absolutely, I agree. I agree with you. I'm at war with Instagram right now, Craig says. Yeah, well, I agree. So Sam ran a poll. Do you use Instagram to show your work? 62% said no. 37% yes. Okay, well, here we go. Here you have it, folks. So in terms of this, it's an interesting split. Again, people are still on Instagram. I don't, but like while our representation is 37%, I personally think that's actually like in real life, if we take bigger slice of users, it's probably going to be a majority of people who use that. So, but, it is what it is. Rich King says, Instagram won't help me. I only have 4 followers. Well, here you have it. So I think the later you get into the Instagram game, the harder it is to gain, followers, etc., etc. But at the same time, we started our YouTube channel not far long ago. So I think we were doing some videos before COVID and then kind of started to do videos consistently from March, 2020 COVID years, and then started to grow. And that would be very late for the YouTube game as well. But, we're still doing it. We're still, hopefully we add something to Nikon community as well. So I think if you're going to be at it, then, then maybe it's a good option. But I think, Richard, it's just a question of what do you want to use it for? So, if you just want to just put your pictures out, pictures up and have it as your kind of portfolio website, then why not? It will do the job. Doesn't matter how many followers you have, because eventually, if you want to, let's say, show your portfolio to someone, you can just give them your Instagram tag, handle, and then they can just go and see your images, So here we go. So we got the recommendation of Vero as well. David says, I am a street photographer and have about 350 followers. I would say less than half of them are fellow street photographers. So here you have it. I mean, for street photography, I don't want all people who follow me to be street photographers. I would want to show my work. So in terms of this, I think it's important to have non-photographers looking at your work and admiring your work, etc., etc. So, because the thing is, if we would just be our own circle of photography and we'd put our post pictures, pictures up, it would be a very different approach to photography. Like a lot of photography, like from a professional point of view, needs to be super technical and needs to be perfect. I'm not that guy. I don't need perfect photography. For me, lighting, to have a good lighting is very important. That's not a question. But if I want to have a motion blur or I have an out of focus image in my, in my photograph, I'll do it. That's the thing. And I think for me, the important point is if it's your artistic decision to do that, so it's a choice that you've made, and it's not like happened because you didn't know the settings, then anything goes really, as long as you know what you're doing. So we published some, here's a good story. We published some, 23 DX Voigtlander video. And people say, oh, the images look a little bit overexposed. And I said, yeah, because I showed it specifically overexposed because I want to go for that specific look. You may not like this look, but I decided that that's what I'm going with. You know, it doesn't mean good or bad, but it was my choice, and it was deliberate choice because I wanted to create a more cinematic look and to go more for more filmic look, and that's what it is. I could do it in the post, but I decided to do it in camera, and I wanted to see how much I can push that 50 sensor in terms of exposure without blowing the highlights. So, you know, it was an interesting decision. Again, some people like it, some people didn't. That's the answer to that. Okay. So Sam says, Richard, yeah, give us your Instagram account. We're gonna follow you. Here you go. We're gonna give you some followers. Why not? Why not? All right, got 160 people watching us. I don't know how many likes we have, but guys, any likes, I appreciate it. The coffee fund is open. I'm just gonna open my cold brew over here. Costa Rican this time. If you guys ever did a cold brew with some toddy, you know what I'm talking about. It's fantastic. For the wave heat that we have here now, we got about 32 degrees in London, and I think it's going to be the same over weekend. This is perfect. Okay, let's see your comments. What else do we think? Dave Walk says, I would love my own website. It's a question of having time to do it and do it properly. Here's the answer for you, Dave. The good news is you can now get a radio website for paying money. So if you're happy to go with this approach, where you probably would be on monthly subscription, you can get things done really easy. So you don't need to know the code, you don't need to know HTML, CSS, etc. I mean, ideally it helps if you want to fine-tune your website, but technically you go to a place like Format, if you go to Squarespace, you've seen them on all the YouTube videos. You know, you pay them monthly, they give you different templates, which allows you basically choose the template, put your pictures up, change the fonts, put your logo up, you got a professional website. So in terms of this, Dave, it's not as time consuming as it used to be. I mean, I had my website up for about 15 years or so, no more than that. And I went from HTML editing with a software like Dreamweaver, I don't know if anyone remembers that, to running a WordPress website. And now I have a format.com website. So, you know, and to be honest with you, I think it's £89 a year. It's basically about £110 with hosting fees and all this and domains. And it does the job. And to be honest with you, for 110 quid, I can spend my time. Like, my time is more valuable for me to spend time on this. So in terms of this, I'd rather pay this money and do the adjustments, upload the images, etc., etc. Everyone is different, but it's definitely a lot easier nowadays. The same as with YouTube, but the same with everything. You can start your own shop, online shop nowadays with places like Shopify, like in a matter of days, really. And it used to be a lot more difficult than that. Okay, let's see what we have here. So Dave says, Con is on the money, and that's why I still shoot film. It's not perfect. Yeah, we're not going to talk film today because I know the group here. So, you know, I say film and then I get booed. So, you know, so we're going to leave film for another live stream with you, David, and me, basically, and maybe Becky will join us, you know. So, but yeah, I mean, film is not dead. I can tell you that much, that's for sure. Okay, so Michael Reese says, you read my mind, Con. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, Paul says, Paul asking, what's happening with Gray's public account on Google Drive? It seems to be dormant. I'm not sure, Paul. If you can send us an email, I can look into that. I'm not in charge of this side of things, but I can definitely point it to the right people. That's for sure. Let's see. Oh, yeah, it says, I still use Dreamweaver. Well, here we go. Welcome to the club. You know, remember that time. Good old days. So, yeah, Jan says Wix. Yeah, Wix is another option. You know, it's basically, as long as you don't mind to add another subscription to all the bunch of subscriptions that you have in your life, you know, then absolutely no problem. It's you know, those options are there. So yeah, Squarespace recommended. I'm not going to talk about Squarespace unless they're going to sponsor us. So let's get them, let's get them listening a little bit. All right. So YouTube, let's talk about YouTube. Yeah. So we talk about Nikon marketing and how Sony did really well with the influencers and a lot of people. Yeah, so how they've done it really well, really early, and all those YouTubers basically were bashing on Nikon and says how great Sony is. And if you go on YouTube nowadays, you really see that apparently everyone is using Sony. That's according to YouTube. So we can be, there are two things about this. Obviously, this whole influencer culture. Yeah. That's number one. Number two is marketing side of things. So I have two questions for you. So if we all hate YouTube, but we're still there, what do we do? What do we do? Obviously, we are on YouTube platform. We may not like it, but we are there. So that's the question number one. Where do we go? Do we go on other platforms? No, because we don't get the reach. We looked into Twitch. I don't think we're going to get the same reach on Twitch, but maybe we'll stream on all of them, so you never know. That's number one. Number two, the question is, do you think Nikon should spend more marketing on YouTube? Could be influencers. I know, I cringe from that word. It could be influencers. Could be, all the photographers, all different, boys and girls with different haircuts and different type of hairs, So should Nikon spend more time on this? Shall we get into this of saying, of all this kind of screaming attitudes saying it's either the best in the class or it's rubbish? What really puzzles me when we compare, look at autofocus testing between Z9, A1 and Canon R3, and we start to throw those big words of saying how different they are, and how bad is, let's say, one brand is another one. In reality, the difference is very little, let's be honest, and it's just we can't really put a figure on it, or milliseconds or whatever there is. But where do we need to be? What do we need to do? What do you think, guys? What do you think? Does Nikon need to spend more money? Does Nikon need to spend money, give money to those people and say, yay, here you go, equipment, we're going to pay you, just promote our brand on this? We are lucky enough that we are a shop, so we have access to equipment here. So that's the good thing. So we're not in a position where, let's say, if you are, let's say, an average Joe and you want to start your photography channel and you want to start to get equipment for, let's say, for testing things like this. So we're not in that position. So we are lucky and we are grateful enough to be in a position where we have access to equipment and we can do those tests for you. But what do you think? I mean, Nikon has this content creator things where they just started to give cameras to bloggers, vloggers. Like there's a big, like they give cameras to people who do, let's say, blogs for moms. Let's say blogs on, let's say, the shabby chic and all the vintage little things like that. So they're not exactly photography blogs, if you see what I mean. They start to give equipment to those guys. Recently on Facebook group, I saw a Z30 with 51.2 on it. That was fun image. Can you imagine the 51.2 and Z30 at the back? That sounds fun. Okay, let's read your comments. Thank you very much, Randall. So he says, car, gun, photo clubs use YouTube the most, but to enhance their chosen hobby or work scenario, they include other platforms to enhance the popularity. Promotions of views. Grays are doing great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Randall. Yeah, we have to be in the game, unfortunately. As a business, we have to be in the game. So we have the channel to run, but we also run a photography business. Well, we are a photographer retailer, so we would like to sell the cameras, and equipment. So obviously, if you're in UK, you're welcome to give us a call and buy equipment from us. If you are in different parts of the world, obviously maybe new equipment doesn't make sense to buy for you per se, let's say if you're in the United States, but if you're looking at something really nice and vintage piece of equipment that is quite rare, and we have it, then obviously you can give us a call or email us and place those things on order. All right, so let's see what else is here. So, Richard King, I learned a ton from you. YouTube, David says, here you go. YouTube has side of things. As I said, I don't really watch big photography channels because I think they've lost the charm personally. Maybe we'll be there in 5 years, you never know. But it's just, it's tiring. It's tiring to have the drama all the time, So we feel like we are pressured to use very clickbaity titles and covers. We try not to do this, but we are being pressured constantly because I can see how some videos are doing. Let's say, if you look at our Nikon Report podcast, last week podcast and this week podcast. Last week podcast has done 17,000 views. This week's podcast, I think it's about maybe under 5,000 views now. You know, what we did different, we covered the news. On the cover of our last week podcast, we put massive letters, Nikon Z8, rumors, drama. There was drama on the internet about Nikon rumors because there were some fake Twitter accounts, not fakes, there were some Twitter reports of Nikon Z8 and the photoshopped image, and then Nikon rumors came out and said, no, this is not true, blah, 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 blah. So we covered that, and we called Nikon Z8 rumors drama, and that's what it is. So it wasn't clickbait or anything like this. But I can see that Nikon Z8 having there with the big letters suddenly brought a lot more people to the video. So I can clearly see the reach of different videos. Let's say this week's report and the other week's report. I mean, okay, let's not talk about this week's report because financials, I know you guys don't like financials. I think it's important, to cover all aspects of Nikon. That's what I think it is. You may not agree with me, but that's what I think. It's my creative decision. It's my project. It's the podcast. So I make decisions on how do we cover it, etc., etc. So so even if you take the previous podcast, you're looking at maybe 6,000-7,000 views, and then you got 17,000 views. Z8, here you have it. So what does it tell me? Put a screamy face on. Put Z8 on every single picture. Put Z9 had it at some point. It's kind of slowed down now. Z30 is not doing that, but technically, yeah, just put Z8 on every single cover that we're gonna have, and then suddenly we're going to see the increase in terms of, engagement, et cetera, et cetera. Is it the right thing to do from channel point of view? If we grow this way and we get more people in, then yes. From the point of the viewer, it's a clickbait, and I absolutely agree with that. So, okay, let's have a look. Let's see what we have here. So 32 degrees in Surrey. Yeah, it is hot in here. So, Chuck says, Con doesn't want me to run here. Chuck, you're welcome to voice your opinion. I mean, you've never been shy. So, the thing is open. The chat is open. We all talking here. So, Chuck, you're welcome to. Let's see. And that's the thing. We all have different opinions. And YouTube gives us a platform. We may like it or not. But Chuck has his own channel. He voices his opinion there. He can come in here and he can voice his opinion in the chat here as well. So, that's the good thing about this. It's a platform that allows to do this. Is it good or not? That's a different thing. I think the problem with algorithms more than anything else. Craig says, I love Behance. Only thing missing is dedicated mobile app. Here you go. Grainery also doesn't have this. Yeah, thank you for the likes, everyone. We appreciate it. Bucks says, it amuses me when non-photography channels have better production than some photography channels. Bucks, I agree with you. And the reason for that being, actually, the funny thing is, from our experience, let's say, we really are not videographers. We are photographers, first of all. Yeah, and from our perspective, we're running the shop as well. So we help with the other things that happen in the shop. So we're not full-time YouTubers. We're not here to run the YouTube channel all the time. And unfortunately, that brings a lot of compromises. What we can choose, what we have to do, etc., etc. What I can tell you is that we are improving, and maybe it doesn't happen as often, as fast as we hope. But we try to squeeze as much time and improve on certain things. So we got this 8 mini now for the live streams. The idea of having this thing is, as soon as we fix the audio issues, is to start to put all the different things in there, like, the sexy graphics, lower thirds coming in, maybe having comments from the chat popping up on the screen while we're talking. That's the idea behind it. It requires time, and it requires a lot of your personal investment in this and learning a lot of things that you haven't learned before. So that's a good thing. That's the thing about it. And because effectively this YouTube channel is 2-man band plus some as well, we have to compromise sometimes, and we have to shoot certain things that maybe we would shoot differently, we would have more time. You know, that's the thing. Okay, let's see. Thank you very much, Keith. Appreciate it. Oh, hi, Ronald. Ronald is a long customer of ours. Hope you're well. So he says, I believe, Con, I believe, has to stay focused to promoting the quality and specifics of the Z system. Well, we want to give to the community. We don't want to be just, you know, we are a Nikon dedicated channel, that's for sure, but we also want to talk in more general topics as well. So we don't want to limit ourselves just to this, because obviously a lot of Nikon guys also look into social media, also look, you know, at let's say other brands, maybe look into the lighting and things like this. So, you know, we want to have a photography based around the Nikon brand, I would say that. So, you know, and just because we love the brand, as we say, you know. Yama says, I like the financial, it's important to know. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. John says, I just like the way you do your Nikon reports. Thank you very much. You may have a lot of followers, but not many watchers. That's the thing. We have more watchers than the followers. That's the thing, actually. If everyone who watched us subscribed to our channel, we definitely would do, you know, probably would have a lot more people. Okay, I want to see. David asking which Costa Rican. That's a good question. Actually, I have no idea. But I will come home and I'll check the brand. So, from Square Mile Coffee Roastery. So that's that. Arbor, thanks. Very good stream today. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. John says the sound sync is bad. So yeah, the problem with the sound sync we had is at this moment I'm routing the audio straight through the camera. So the video and audio are coming from the same basically source. So that's the thing. We still can't figure out why there is a delay. So we were doing the right things, as people were recommending, set audio delay, but there's no audio delay at the source. As soon as it connects to YouTube, there is a delay, and it seems like whatever we change on the software to run it, it doesn't happen. So work in progress, that's for sure. Craig says, do you think it's a good idea for Nikon to rebrand lenses 28-75, which was not received very well? I'd rather just them allow Tamron and make Z-mount lenses under their own name. Yeah, we talk about it all the time. We talk about it all the time. We talked about Nikon opening their Z-mount format to third-party manufacturers. And we hope it's going to happen. We hope it's going to happen. 28-75, surprisingly, in terms of sales, was not received badly. So I can tell you that much. So I can see from kind of keen enthusiast and pro crowd, having Tamron rebadging to Nikon doesn't really give a good will towards the lens. But actually, from the sale point of view, and especially from, let's say, keen hobbyists, to have a 2-point lens at this price range, in that zoom range as well, it's a good option. Would I like to have a Tamron lens with the same name and the same thing, and probably even cheaper? Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Ron says, I love the field reviews you and Becky do, inspiring, informative. Thank you very much. Again, we want to improve on the quality of those, so work in progress. Hopefully we'll get there. Chuck is asking, do you think Nikon pays attention to comments on YouTube? Highly likely, yes, but I don't think it's comments on our channels, let's say. You know, I think they may be looking at very big channels with, let's say, 100+ subscribers. So I don't think, yeah, we are a small channel. You know, we are a small channel. So 10K subscribers is nothing, I guess, for big corporations. I can tell you the story that when, let's say, things need to be loaned down for tests, for reviews for the YouTube channels, the amount of subscribers matters more than your engagement. So we are a small channel, but we have a really good engagement with you guys. The lens will go first to the channel, let's say, with 100K subscribers. Doesn't matter if it's not specifically a Nikon-related channel, and not many views are going to watch it. So here you have it. Marketing department has nothing to do with photographers, and that's the reality we have to deal with. Kisley says, I appreciate your factual reporting on this channel and your sparkling personality as well. Thank you very much. Keep your good work. Thank you. Okay, well, let's move on from YouTube. Let's have a good live stream. I know we're on an hour today, so let's have it longer. You know, it's a good exercise for me. So no one uses TikTok, by the way. So I've looked into that. No one says anything about TikTok. That's very interesting. But again, do you think Nikon should spend more on social marketing, on YouTubers, vloggers, influencers? Do you think that's the way it is? I mean, if you're on YouTube, do you think they should go there instead of, let's say, traditional channels like print, Facebook, and things like this? You know, let me know. Random question, guys, about the future of photography. Have you seen this news on Sony is introduced this anti-forgery crypto signature technology to their A7 Mark IV camera, available for commercial purposes only. So effectively what it does is when you take a shot, it creates a crypto signature, so you can identify this image that it hasn't been altered and it belongs to you. It's a very interesting development. Again, it's available only for commercial purposes at the moment, so it's not available to every Joe like us. But do you think it's the future? Do you think all cameras should create some sort of crypto signature that belongs to us? Do you think we can potentially create an NFT in cameras? I know maybe I'm taking some people not, you know, really into that side of things and maybe difficult, but do you think, let's say, like if you have a signature of basically that proves your ownership, not just copyright setting in your metadata, but some sort of signature that shows it's yours and it's on a ledger somewhere that it's easily trackable. Do you think it's the future? Do you think we're going to see that in any other cameras? I also think in terms of, let's say, imagine, like, I'm sure you've seen those NFT being sold for million money, but do you think that effectively if you're taking a shot and it's automatically an NFT which proves your ownership, then you can potentially sell it as a piece of art for the future, but also, as I say, it just proves your ownership and it's on the blockchain, etc., etc. What do you think about this? Let me know, because it's an interesting development. I want to see where it goes, and I know I'm taking you a little bit further away from Nikon side of things, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about AI and computational photography as well, because obviously we have the preachers saying, you know, the phones are going to win DSLRs, etc., etc. You know, everyone's going to use the phone, the DSLRs are going to die, etc., etc. And every year, mobile phones become definitely better and better, and also the size of the sensor has increased. If you haven't seen this article by EOS HD, it's eoshd.com. Have a look in there, and he has a nice graph of showing how much bigger the sensors are in mobile phones. We are getting very close to the size of Macro Four Thirds, which is incredible, I think, for mobile phones. And I know, yeah, eventually, probably those phones will become better and better. I'm not talking now, I'm talking maybe 10 years down the road with technology improving. But AI and computational photography becomes a part of the package of mobile phone. They do a lot of the things. I mean, the very simple example is obviously the portrait mode on your iPhone, which blurs the background, yada, yada, yada. Do you think the camera brands will be forced to apply similar style of computational photography and AI and machine learning into the cameras eventually? What do you think? Let me know. I'm going to have a look at your comments right now. Let's see if anyone gave us any idea about those crypto signatures, etc., etc. Thank you very much, Peter. He said, keeping it going all on your own. You will need the ice later. Yeah, I am having a really beautiful cold brew right now, so that's fantastic. John says they shouldn't implement the crypto stuff into their cameras. Here you have it. Let's not talk about age groups. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all young in spirit here. So, you know, hopefully we'll, like, I had to force myself learning about just cryptocurrency in general about a year or maybe 2 years ago, just for me to understand what that is, before that, yeah, when people were talking about it, I was completely blunt. I mean, I still don't know how to use Twitter. Here you have it. You know, I just don't know how to use Twitter, you know. Maybe I should learn. I don't know. Let's have a look. Becky's in the chat. Hello, Becky. Thanks for joining us today. we hope you're going to be back. So, you know, I mean, I'm enjoying doing it on my own, but it's always better with you. You know, in a good company, times flies, I can tell you. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? No way secret censorship, to copyright info on the Nikon menu. So Terry says, I hope they're not going to do this technology, Peter Smith. Well, think about this crypto signature thing. It's just part of the package again. It's like if I would ask you, do you think the DSLR should have video in there? And you would, you know, majority of people at the time would say, no, we don't want a video in our DSLRs. Take the video out of my DSLR. You know, they come here and they start to do video work on our cameras that we own and belong to us. You know, if it's a part of the package and it's a matter of activating the setting, like putting your copyright information into the camera, typing your name, why not? It just, you know, doesn't cost you anything. It's part of the package. You activate. Do you want a crypto signature of each file you create? Boom, it's there. It's not a cryptocurrency. It's nothing to do with that. Throw away the NFT side of things. It's just proof of ownership, effectively. So let's have a look. Lovely chat. Thank you, guys. I mean, I'm glad you guys enjoying that. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, so Keith Sanders says, very interesting thing, actually. You are absolutely right. My Nikon D700 was set to image authentication to on, where Nikon years ahead of Sony. Well, in a way, yes. The problem is this image authentication software you'd have to buy for about $300 at the time. And I don't know if people use it still. I don't know if there's any support of this, but maybe we should look into that. We may have a copy of that bit of software brand new somewhere in the shop. I think I've seen it about 3 months ago laying around somewhere. So could be, but that was at the time, yeah, the image authentication software would be something like this, but it would be on a different technology, not blockchain effectively. John says, what's Twitter? I agree. Well, I will know what Twitter is once Elon Musk buys it, or will be forced to buy it via the court decision. You never know. So I'm actually excited about this because it's just interesting. I don't know. I have no whatsoever like side on this thing, but I just want to see what Elon Musk can do with those things, especially with his polarizing personality. So, okay, all crypto-based system requires a lot of energy. David, that's not correct. Like, it's not 100% correct. There is a comparison that you can look into it. Unfortunately, I can't back it up right now. We you know, that wasn't conversation, but compared to what? That is the question. That is the question. Okay, this is one of those myths that a lot of people throw when they say, "Oh, they use a lot of energy." It's not necessarily true, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, and with those things, different new technologies has a lot more energy efficient. So if you skip the Bitcoin, let's say, as a big whale, but if you go to other chains. Let's see. I think computational. Oh, here we go. Yemen says, I'm glad that we have a conversation. We talk about actually the topic. So Yemen says, I think computational photography is important to embrace from an evolution perspective. I absolutely agree. Digital signature is important to maintain integrity of files. Wonder if news outlets would bother though. Well, that's the thing. If it's automatic, if it's a matter of just switching it on the camera and it's automatically there, and it's uploads to the net, or especially for news agencies, that would be a lot easier to do, I think, than, let's say, us regular folks. But yeah, computational photography is the part of the future. I mean, we're starting to see now 3D modeling being used quite a lot. Yeah, so let's say cars are being 3D models, food is being 3D modeled nowadays. I saw a Petapixel article about this software that allows you to put the water drops on the can, like a can of water, like a can of soda is sweating, and it looks really, really good. So a lot of those things are going to be substituted. So traditional way of photography won't be used the same way anymore. And that's the thing, if you're a professional photographer, you were forced to get into video to a certain degree, some people more, some people less, just to stay competitive, And when did 90 came out? Ages ago, 10, 12 years ago, that was there, Nowadays, we all, I'm editing videos, Becky's editing videos for our channel, but obviously if you're shooting for the brands, they may ask you to shoot a bit of video for them as a part of this. So who knows, maybe computational photography will become part of it. Obviously, I don't know if you've seen, there's a couple of places online where you can type in certain words, and the artificial intelligence, AI, will generate an image based on the words you've typed in. I forgot the name of it. It will come back to me. I will mention it. And obviously, it looks more like a painting, and it doesn't look amazingly well in resolution, not very high. But those are the first steps that are there. So I think that's incredible. Will it make our life different in the future? Definitely, yes. Will it make more difficult? Not, but we will probably require photographers to evolve into another side of things. Again, that's the thing. Traditional photography will stay there, but I think not just like maybe single digits, maybe double digits will actually make money from traditional photography, and everyone else. And we're talking probably about art photographers more than else. Anyone else in business probably will require to use a bit of computational photography or 3D graphics in their work later on. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, let's have a look. Stream crypto. If crypto becomes mainstream, someone else will come up with a way to remove it. Who knows? You never know. That's it's an interesting thing. Yeah, obviously security is very important. That again, I'm not trying to talk about currencies or anything like this, but I'm trying to talk blockchain for photographers' use, or let's say to be used in camera. In this case, as anti-forgery feature. All right, so let's see what we have. Okay, yeah, guys. Again, like. We're not talking about mining here. We're not talking about cryptocurrency here. We're talking about use of blockchain for photography. So that's not the point. That's the thing. That mining and all this. We're not going to talk Bitcoin with you today. So think about blockchain technology more than anything else. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Okay. Well, that is. I think that is. I have another one here about using different camera systems, but I think, guys, we're going to leave that for the next time. The last one I have for you is this article and the question about Canon saying that we've bottomed out as a photography market. So we've reached the bottom in terms of sales. That's obviously happened during the COVID times, and now we are going up in sales. So obviously a lot to do with mirrorless technology, etc., etc. Camera manufacturers switching to mirrorless, obviously big players in that respect who switched to mirrorless recently was Canon and Nikon. So we start to see increase in sales. My question for you, do you think we bottomed out into the sales, or do you think we're going to shrink as a market and as a group of people who are using professional cameras for our use because of the phones getting better and better, etc., etc.? Do you think we're becoming more of a hi-fi industry? And we're not talking about selling snake oil in terms of audio quality, etc., etc., but I'm saying that hi-fi industry, if you look at the high end of the market, is quite small. So, those people are going to spend tens of thousands of pounds just to improve their sound, etc., etc. But this group of people is very, very small. Do you think we are kind of starting to become this? We have less and less people getting to the group, so obviously, it wasn't the same as, let's say, the time was film times where point-and-shoot cameras were out. You could buy just a camera with roll film there, shoot it, give it there. It was cheap and affordable. But obviously with the phones, we now will use the phones. So do you think mirrorless and, well, let's keep DSLRs at this point, but photography industry will shrink more than it is now? Let me know your opinion. That's going to be the last one. We're going to wrap up for today. That's a nice one. Yeah, it's a 1 hour, 15 minutes. Let's see what you say. 5 more. Okay, we're talking about Tamron here. Okay, can someone explain why Nikon flagship is the same price as Canon R3 when they are rumored to be released in R1? We was at 8B Nikon version of the R3. Robert, to be honest, I had a interesting chat with one of our customers, and he thinks that Canon just didn't have any idea what Z9 will be like. So they released the camera. It potentially was a R1, but then they decided to call it R3. And because of the specifications, and obviously Nikon is, in a lot of aspects, is superior to R3, obviously, arguably. But from another point of view is that it was supposed to be R1, but they called it R3. So now they'll have R1. And I think If they have an R1 and it's about the same as Z9, then they would have to really push the prices down on their R3 cameras. That's the thing. So that's my thoughts on it. So people say, yeah, good question, worth pondering on for sure. David says, hope we won't shrink as a market. I absolutely agree. I hope we're not. But those things are getting expensive. Those things are getting expensive. I'm just thinking about young people. It's becoming really, really expensive to buy equipment nowadays. It's nice for us to have experience with Z9s, you know, but even Z7 Mark III is a very expensive camera. What we're looking at about £3,000, you know. So it's a lot of money for a lot of people who want to get into the photography, you know. So that's the thing. And that's, you know, we start to think, well, do you really want to do this or not? I mean, obviously there's a whole second-hand market open. And obviously, if you buy in DSLR right now, you're definitely going to have a bargain with something like D850, etc., etc. So, you know, but it is becoming expensive for a lot of people, and upgrade cycles become slower and slower. If I buy, let's say, Z9 today, how long do you think it will last me? Like, I think at least 5 years. I don't think I would upgrade to Z9 Mark II, let's say, or even Z10, because obviously 45 megapixels is a low resolution, the focusing speed is fantastic, it's, you know, it's there. What else do you need? Better low light, I think it's very good for a lot of people. It's definitely on par with a lot of other brands. So unless you're really kind of low light and the new technology is significantly better, you probably won't need to upgrade anytime soon. Okay. Terry says, yes, you're right. Always was an expensive hobby. Well, here you have it. Here you have it. Yeah, so we look at other things as a hobby. We look at things as, let's say, from a professional point of view, and they're different way we spend the money on this. All right, guys, thank you very much. I think we had a nice chat, so we overstayed a little bit longer, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, put them in the comment below. If you have any suggestions for the next week live stream, definitely put them down in the comments below. If you like this channel, please give us a like and subscribe, because it does significantly help us as a channel as well. It's really, really help. If you want to buy anything Nikon and you're in the UK, give a call to the shop. Speak to the guys. Steve Lamco was in chat. He will take your call. He will speak to you. I hope you're going to have a lovely weekend. Hopefully it's not going to be too hot for you in UK. Everyone all over the world, I hope you guys are going to have a good time. Thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you next week. All the best. Bye-bye.